I've got all the bits cut out now, on the side panels with the cats on. The legs are sanded down. I've rounded the corners over a little tiny bit. It always helps when you're varnishing not to have a sharp edge. I've cut out the homemade biscuits to do the joining with, and the next job is to start assembling the leg units. I do it in 2 halves, but before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a thin coat of varnish over these side panels before I start the gluing up. The reason I do that is I'm a sloppy gluer, and it always seems to get on the surface of the wood, and if you can't, and it's very difficult to get it off because the PVA adhesive gets into the grain, and then when you try and varnish it, it leaves it clear. So what I tend to do, if I possibly can, I'll put a coat of varnish on first, and then it helps with the gluing. Even if I do get some glue on it, it won't show too much because it'll already be varnished underneath, whereas if I do it afterwards, it will show white underneath and it will show up. I know it's a bit of a bodger's way, because it's just because I'm untidy. I probably put far too much glue on, and it all squeezes out everywhere. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut down the camera now. I'm going to go and make myself a cup of tea or something, and then I'm going to get the varnish pot out and stick a thin coat of varnish over these pieces, and I'll probably do the top as well, just to prime it before I start doing the assembly. So I'll come back before I do the assembly. Right, I'm now ready to start putting the table together and make the 2 ends. I've got the pieces cut out, they're varnished, as I explained in the earlier episode. I'm now going to put these little biscuits or tongues I've made in these, glue these in, and glue them into the ends of the legs. You have to make sure you get it the right way round. You don't want it inside out. It's going to go like that. That's the inside of the table, and the same on there. So I'm just going to get a bit of glue. I'm going to put the glue on the end, this end first. I always put too much glue on. I'm always worried in case there isn't enough, and I end up putting far too much. It's going to go over onto that. Always have some damp rags with me so I can wipe it off the surface of the wood. Let's put enough on the end, because end grain doesn't glue very well, but the tongue will hold it in place. Put some glue on the biscuit or tongue, whatever you want to call it. It isn't really a biscuit, it's homemade bit of plywood, but it does the job. And the advantage over biscuits is you can make it any size you want, so you get a stronger joint. Pop that in there. That's the wrong way round. I put the on the wrong side actually, because that's better. The bit with the rounded off corner goes into the table leg rather than the other way round. Made a bit of a mess of that, never mind. Glue all over my hands. Pop that in there. There we go. I'll just wipe that bit of glue off. And that simply fits in there. I don't need any more glue on it, actually there's enough there. That's the one side done. Now it's just a matter of doing the same on here. What I should do is just make the 2 ends up, then leave them about half an hour or so to the glue to set, and then I can handle them easier, and I can do the other join the sides in. Pop some glue on there. See, I put far too much on. It always comes out. It's about right. Pop that in there. I mean, most experts would scowl seeing me doing this, putting bits of plywood in. They'd probably have a mortise and tenon joint, but for just a little table like this is perfectly adequate, I think. That pops on there. Make sure you get the ends level there. Right, now what I do now is just lay it down. Look at all that glue that's come out of there. Nightmare. I always keep a toilet roll handy. Not for going to the toilet, it's just so you can wipe the glue off with it easy and then chuck it. Get the worst off first. Anything on there, because once it dries it's the job to get off. And then I use a piece of damp cloth. I always have a little pot of water at my side, and I dip it in the cloth in the water, and then you can simply just rub the glue off. If you do it now, it's not a problem. If you leave it, of course, because I've already varnished it, it should be better. It won't set on the varnish. Right, that's that done. All I've got to do now is clamp it. Now if I clamp the top, the legs will bow out. So what I do, I always have a spare piece of wood, just cut the same size. This is actually another little table, but I would make a scrap piece and just pop it in the bottom there. So when you put the clamps on, you get it parallel. Otherwise, the whole thing will be bowed at the bottom. Put my clamps on. You don't want to do it too tight. It just holds it together while the glue sets, really. Pop this one on the bottom. Stop the legs flaying out. Like that. And then what I do, I stand it up. Just move the camera up a bit so you can see. Where's the top gone? You can't see very well there. You'll have to bear with me. I'll do the top one up. I don't want it too tight, but that one. Right, that's the inside. So what I'll do, I'll just wipe the glue off on the inside. It doesn't matter so much on the inside, actually, it wouldn't show, but you might as well do it. Use the toilet roll and a bit of damp cloth again to wipe the... Much better to do it now than wait for the glue to set. I think that's okay. Just check this side again. That's it. Well, that's one set of legs made. Now I shall put that aside and leave it for about half an hour for the glue to set. I'll do the other one as well, but I'll do that off camera. And then when I come back, I shall have 2 units left, and then I can join them together to make the base for the table. Okay. Right. This is the top of the little table. You can see I've put the fancy edging around, the pattern around it. I've also sanded it down, and I've given it a few coats of water-based varnish. Just use this stuff from Wilkinson's. It dries very, very quickly, especially in the warm weather. In fact, it practically dries as you put it on. It's too quick. What I've done, I've put a couple of coats of beach colour on initially. A watered down one first, then a normal coat, and now I've got on the clear now. I've got gloss at the moment, but for the final one I'll probably use matte. I'll just sand it down between each coat, and I'm just going to give it another quick coat and let it dry. Put as many coats as possible on the top. I don't bother so much about the legs. 2 or 3 coats is enough for that, but the top I just keep doing it as long as I can, really. By the way, I should mention, don't take too much notice of my finishing, because this is the one thing I'm hopeless at. I wouldn't want people to be guided by any of my advice, because I really, I'm really hopeless at finishing things. I always seem to spoil them. So I'm using this water base because I just can't stand using the normal stuff, spirit based varnish, because it takes such a long time to dry, and I just get dust all over it and it ruins it. So that's the main reason. I'll put this on. I'll put some of this on. It'll be well, touch dry in about 10 minutes at the moment. So there's no chance of dust getting on it, unless I brush up a lot of dust in the meantime. So I'm just giving it a quick coat. I don't have to be too fussy, because each coat I'll go over it with some very fine abrasive, and then put another coat on top. I'll just give it a quick coat every so often, let it dry, and then I'll get on and do something else. As soon as I've finished this, I'll have a go at finishing off the legs that I started earlier. I'll do. Not to be too fussy. The final one, you have to watch for runs. It's funny stuff, this, because when you put it on, it always looks white, but it seems to work alright. I've been using it for a few years now and don't have any problems with it. It's probably not as hard wearing as the spirit based stuff, I don't know. It seems to be the way things are going now. There we go. Just leave that to dry, and I'll come back in a moment and we'll have a go at putting the rest of the legs together.